Fired? Over a single mistake? Amina's voice cracked as she stared at the man who held her fate in his hands. Khalid Al-Farooq barely glanced up from his desk, his expression unreadable. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a breathtaking view of the Dubai skyline. His office, filled with sleek leather furniture and gold-accented decor, exuded wealth and power. But none of that mattered to Amina. Her entire world was crumbling. Just minutes ago, she had made a simple mistake, spilling coffee on a stack of important documents. It wasn't intentional. It was an accident. But Khalid, the powerful Arab executive known for his ruthless efficiency, had zero tolerance for failure. "You are dismissed," he said coldly, signing a document without looking up. Amina clenched her fists. "Please, sir, I need this job. My mother, she's sick." Khalid's gaze finally met hers, sharp and impassive. "This is a business, not a charity." The words hit her like a slap. Her heart pounded as she glanced at the other employees, her supervisor, the secretaries, the executives, watching silently, afraid to intervene. In their world, she was disposable. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. With her chin held high, she removed her maid's apron and placed it gently on his desk. "I hope one day you understand what it feels like to have everything taken away in an instant." Khalid said nothing. And with that, Amina walked out of the Al-Farooq Corporation, leaving behind the life she had struggled so hard to hold on to. But fate wasn't done with them yet. 2 weeks had passed since Amina was fired. She had searched desperately for another job, but opportunities for an uneducated maid in Dubai were scarce. With her meager savings running out and her mother's medical bills piling up, she found herself standing outside a luxury hotel, scanning the job postings on a bulletin board. Housekeeping staff needed. Immediate hire. Her stomach twisted. Cleaning hotel rooms wasn't ideal, but she had no choice. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside and approached the front desk. "I'm here about the housekeeping position," she said, forcing confidence into her voice. The receptionist barely glanced at her. "Interviews are on the 3rd floor. Take the service elevator." Amina followed the directions, but just as she reached the elevator, she collided with someone stepping out. She gasped. Standing before her, dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit, was Khalid Al-Farooq. For a moment, time froze. His dark eyes widened in surprise, but his expression quickly hardened. "You?" Amina's breath hitched. Of all people, why him? Her pride screamed at her to turn and leave, but before she could move, Khalid spoke again. "What are you doing here?" Her fingers curled into fists. "Looking for work." "Not that it's any of your concern, sir." His gaze swept over her, her simple dress, the slight tremble in her fingers. Something unreadable flickered across his face. "You were working for me. Why are you here begging for another job?" His voice was colder than ever. Anger flared inside her. "Because you fired me," she snapped. "And some of us don't have the luxury of sitting in glass offices and ruining people's lives without a second thought." Silence. For the first time, Khalid didn't have an immediate response. Amina swallowed, suddenly aware of the power dynamic between them. He was still the Arab executive, wealthy, powerful, and untouchable. She was nothing but a maid, struggling to survive. Her face burned with humiliation, but she refused to back down. "I don't need your pity. I'll find a job and move on, just like you moved on from firing me." She turned to leave. But then, something unexpected happened. "Wait." Amina froze. Khalid's voice was quieter this time, almost hesitant. She turned back, meeting his gaze head-on. "You want a job?" he asked, his tone unreadable. She narrowed her eyes. "What are you saying?" He exhaled slowly, as if debating something in his mind. Then, finally, he said, "Come back to work for me." Amina's heart slammed against her ribs. What kind of game was he playing? And why did it feel like she was about to step into something far more dangerous than she had ever imagined? Amina's lips parted in shock. "Come back to work for you?" she echoed, barely believing what she had just heard. Khalid folded his arms, his sharp gaze locked onto her. "You need a job. I need a maid I can trust. It's simple. Amina clenched her fists. Trust? You fired me. And now you want me back? Khalid's jaw tightened. I made a mistake. A mistake? Amina almost laughed. This man, this powerful Arab executive, was actually admitting to making a mistake? But something about his posture, the way his brows furrowed slightly, made her pause. He looked uneasy, as if there was more to this than he was letting on. I don't trust you, she said finally. His lips curled into something between a smirk and a challenge. That's fair. But you don't have many choices, do you? Her pride screamed at her to reject him. But the weight of her mother's hospital bills crushed her defiance. This was about survival. I want triple the pay, she blurted out, crossing her arms. Khalid's brows shot up. Then, to her utter disbelief, he chuckled. You have guts. She lifted her chin. I know my worth. For a long moment, he studied her, his dark eyes scanning her face, as if searching for something. Then he nodded. Fine. Triple the pay. But you start tomorrow. Amina's stomach twisted. Had she just made a deal with the devil? She exhaled and met his gaze. Fine. Khalid extended a hand. She hesitated before finally shaking it. His grip was firm, warm, and lingering just a second too long. Welcome back, Amina. Something about the way he said her name sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. What had she just gotten herself into? Amina barely slept that night. Her mind raced with doubts, fears, and a nagging curiosity about Khalid's sudden change of heart. Why did a man as powerful as him need her back? The next morning, she stood outside Khalid's mansion, her fingers gripping the strap of her worn-out handbag. The place was just as intimidating as she remembered, tall marble pillars, sprawling gardens, and guards stationed at the gate like statues. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. The head housekeeper, an older woman named Fatima, greeted her with a tight smile. You're back. Amina nodded, feeling every eye in the room on her. Some of the other staff whispered, but she ignored them. You'll be assigned to Mr. Khalid's private wing, Fatima continued. Amina blinked. His private wing? Fatima pursed her lips. It was his request. You'll be handling everything in his personal quarters, cleaning, organizing, and preparing his meals when needed. Amina's stomach twisted. Why would he put her in charge of something so personal? Before she could ask further, a deep voice echoed from the hallway. You're late. She turned sharply to find Khalid standing at the base of the grand staircase, dressed in a crisp black suit with the top buttons of his shirt undone. His dark eyes scanned her from head to toe, lingering just a second too long. Amina lifted her chin. I wasn't given a start time. His lips twitched, amused. Excuses already? She exhaled sharply, resisting the urge to snap back. This was just a job. Nothing more. Follow me, he instructed, turning toward the hallway leading to his private wing. Amina hesitated before following. As she stepped into his quarters, she realized just how much trust he was placing in her. The space was his, sleek, masculine, and strangely personal. Khalid leaned against his desk, arms folded. You asked for triple the pay. That means I expect absolute loyalty. No questions, no mistakes. Amina clenched her fists. I'm not a thief. His gaze darkened. Good. Because if you betray my trust, he stepped closer, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You won't like what happens next. A chill ran down Amina's spine. What had she just gotten herself into? Amina swallowed hard, but she refused to let Khalid see her fear. She had taken this job for the money, nothing more. Whatever game he was playing, she wouldn't fall for it. Understood, she said firmly, keeping her voice steady. Khalid smirked, his sharp gaze scanning her face, as if trying to uncover a weakness. Good. Then get to work. With that, he turned and walked toward the balcony, making a phone call in Arabic. Amina exhaled and hurried to start cleaning. His private wing was immaculate, no dust, no clutter. It didn't even look lived in. Still, she wiped down the polished surfaces, trying to focus on her work rather than the fact that she was now under his watchful eye. As she reached for a glass on his nightstand, she froze. There, Beside his luxury watch was a small framed photograph. It was of a woman, strikingly beautiful, with dark eyes and an elegant smile. She wasn't Arab, but she carried an air of grace that made Amina instantly curious. Who was she? Before she could step away, Khalid's voice cut through the silence. Don't touch that. Amina jerked her hand back, heart pounding. She turned to see Khalid standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. I said, don't. His voice was sharp now, almost dangerous. Amina nodded quickly and turned away. But as she resumed her work, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just uncovered something important, something Khalid didn't want her to know. Whatever it wasn't just a picture. It was a secret, and she had a bad feeling it was only a matter of time before she found out the truth. Amina forced herself to keep cleaning, but she could feel Khalid's intense gaze burning into her back. The room was heavy with tension, and she knew she had crossed an invisible line. I don't like people touching my things, Khalid said coldly, stepping further into the room. I understand, sir, Amina responded softly, keeping her eyes down. For a moment, there was silence. Then, Khalid exhaled sharply and loosened his tie as he walked past her. Leave the room. I'll call if I need you. Amina quickly gathered her cleaning supplies and hurried out, her mind racing. Why had he reacted so strongly? Who was the woman in the picture? As she made her way down the grand staircase, she nearly bumped into Layla, the head housekeeper. The older woman gave her a knowing look. I see you've met him, Layla muttered, leading Amina into the kitchen. Amina hesitated. Mr. Khalid? Yes, he's complicated, Layla finished for her. You'll do well to stay out of his way. Amina frowned.
Why?
I get that he's powerful, but... Layla's expression darkened. Listen, girl. This house is full of secrets. And Khalid al-Rashid? He carries more baggage than any man should. Amina felt a chill crawl up her spine. What do you mean? Layla glanced around, making sure no one else was listening. Then, in a low voice, she whispered, That woman in the picture? She was supposed to be his wife. But she disappeared the night before their wedding. No one knows what happened to her. Amina's heart pounded in her chest. So that was why Khalid reacted the way he did. The woman wasn't just anyone. She was his fiancée. And now, Amina had accidentally stumbled upon a past he wanted buried. As Layla's words echoed in her mind, Amina realized one thing. Working in this mansion was more dangerous than she had ever imagined. That night, Amina lay in her small servant's quarters, staring at the ceiling. The mansion was silent, but her mind was anything but. Layla's words haunted her. Khalid's fiancée disappeared? She turned onto her side, gripping the thin blanket. What had happened to her? And why did Khalid react so harshly to something as simple as touching that photo? Amina had been in the mansion for only a short time, but she already felt trapped in something far bigger than herself. The next morning, she went about her tasks quietly, avoiding Khalid as much as possible. But fate had other plans. As she was dusting the grand staircase, she heard rapid footsteps behind her. Before she could turn, a voice snapped, Move. She spun around, her breath hitching. Khalid stood there, his usual composed expression clouded with frustration. He was adjusting his watch, his movements tense. Sorry, sir, she mumbled, stepping aside. He didn't move immediately. Instead, he studied her, his dark eyes scanning her face, as if trying to figure something out. Where are you from? He asked suddenly. Amina blinked. Of all things, she hadn't expected that question. Nigeria, she answered hesitantly. Khalid nodded slightly, as if he had already guessed. Then, after a long pause, he muttered, You remind me of someone. Amina's chest tightened. Your fiancé? She asked softly before she could stop herself. Khalid's entire body stiffened. His jaw clenched, his hands forming into fists. For a second, she thought he might lash out, but instead, he let out a bitter chuckle. So, the servants talk, he said darkly. I should have known. I didn't mean to pry. Amina rushed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Khalid took a step closer, towering over her. Then don't. His voice was sharp, but underneath it, there was something else.
Pain.
Amina swallowed hard, nodding. But as Khalid walked away, one thing became clear. There was more to this story. And whether she liked it or not, she was now part of it. The tension from their last conversation lingered in the air for days. Amina did her best to avoid Khalid, but it was impossible in a house where his presence was everywhere, his scent in the hallways, his deep voice echoing in the grand rooms, his piercing gaze watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. One evening, as she was arranging fresh flowers in the main hall, Layla appeared out of nowhere. Her arms were crossed, her sharp eyes locked onto Amina like a hawk spotting prey. "You should be careful," Layla said smoothly, leaning against a marble pillar. "You're getting too comfortable around Khalid." Amina stiffened. "I only do my work," she replied evenly. Layla smirked, taking slow steps towards her. "I've seen it before," she whispered. "Girls like you, thinking they can change him, thinking they're special." "I don't think anything," Amina shot back, gripping the edge of the vase. "I just want to do my job and leave." Layla chuckled darkly.
Good.
"Because Khalid al-Rashid is not a man you can save. And trust me." She leaned in closer, her perfume suffocating. "You don't want to end up like her." Amina's stomach turned. She knew exactly who Layla was talking about. Khalid's missing fiancé. Before she could ask anything, Layla straightened, her expression turning cold. "Stay in your place, housemaid, before you get burned." With that, she walked off, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Amina exhaled, gripping the vase even tighter. There was a secret in this house. A dark one. And for some reason, Layla was determined to keep her away from it. But Amina had never been good at looking the other way. That night, Amina couldn't sleep. Layla's words haunted her, echoing like a warning wrapped in venom. "You don't want to end up like her." Curiosity tugged at her like a thread, unraveling a much bigger mystery. Why was Khalid's engagement suddenly broken off? What had happened to the woman he was supposed to marry? Unable to fight the urge, Amina left her small servants' quarters and tiptoed through the silent mansion. The halls were dimly lit, moonlight spilling through the grand windows and painting shadows across the glossy marble floors. She found herself drawn to the West Wing, an area she'd been warned never to enter. Her heart pounded as she approached a carved wooden door with golden handles. Something about it felt forbidden. She reached for the knob. "Amina?" The voice made her spin around. Khalid stood at the end of the corridor, his face unreadable, his dark eyes filled with something between surprise and frustration. I wasn't going to go in," she stammered, stepping away from the door. He walked slowly toward her, the silence between them heavier than ever. "That room is not for you," he said, voice low. "There are things in this house that don't belong in your world." She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Then why do I feel like I'm already a part of it?" His jaw tensed. "Because you are." Before she could ask what he meant, he gently took her hand, pulling her away from the door. "Come with me." And for some reason, even with her heart pounding in fear and confusion, she followed him. Not because she trusted him, but because she needed answers. And maybe, just maybe, because she wanted him to be the one to give them. Khalid led Amina into his private study, a room she had only seen from afar. The walls were lined with books, deep mahogany shelves stretching to the ceiling. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened to a terrace, where warm daylight poured in, softening the tension in the room. He didn't speak at first. Instead, he poured 2 glasses of water, handed her one, and sat down across from her. "I wasn't always like this," he began, his voice quieter than she'd ever heard it. Amina stayed silent, sensing this was a rare glimpse behind the wall he'd built so high. "My father raised me to believe power is everything. That emotion is weakness. That love is dangerous." He paused, eyes locked on hers. "I believed him until I met Layla." Her heart skipped. "The woman you were engaged to?" Khalid nodded. "She wasn't from our world. She was like you, strong, honest, defiant. I thought I could protect her by hiding her, by keeping things quiet. But secrets are poison, Amina. They destroy everything. Amina swallowed hard. What happened to her? She left, he said after a pause. She couldn't live in the shadows anymore. Couldn't bear the way my family treated her. I let her go because I was too much of a coward to choose her over them. The room fell into heavy silence. The pain in his voice wasn't performative, it was real. But you're different, he said, leaning forward, voice steady. You're not afraid to speak your mind. You're not trying to impress me. And despite everything, I can't seem to stay away from you. Amina's breath caught. Her world was spinning. Khalid, she whispered. I didn't ask for this. I didn't come here looking for love. I know, he replied. But sometimes love finds us anyway. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by truths neither of them expected to share, something fragile and undeniable bloomed between them. A connection neither wealth nor power could fake. The next morning, the Alhamden estate buzzed with an energy Amina hadn't felt before. Servants moved faster. Whispers echoed through the marble halls, and eyes followed her wherever she went. When she walked past the grand staircase, she heard it. She's the one he's been protecting. An African maid? With him? She must have bewitched him. The gossip spread like wildfire, igniting suspicion and jealousy, especially from those who had long envied Khalid's attention. Layla, the family's longtime event coordinator and once a rumored fiancé, stormed into Khalid's office unannounced. She's ruining your name, Khalid. Do you even realize what people are saying? Khalid stood behind his desk, unshaken. Let them talk. She's a housemaid. Layla snapped. And you're the heir to one of the most powerful families in Dubai. You think love will shield you from the backlash. Khalid stepped closer, his tone cold. This is my life, not a publicity campaign. If they can't accept her, they can leave. Layla's eyes narrowed. Don't forget who you are, Khalid, or what your name means in this city. As she stormed out, Amina, who had come to deliver documents, stood frozen in the hallway, having heard every word. That night, she found Khalid in the courtyard garden, pacing under moonlight. You shouldn't have defended me, she said quietly. He turned, eyes tired. You heard all of it, she replied. This is dangerous for you. I don't care, he said. You're not just a maid to me, Amina. You're the only real thing I've known in years. Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. Then promise me if this gets worse, if your family turns on you, don't destroy yourself for me. Khalid stepped closer, gently taking her hand. Too late, Amina. I've already fallen. And in that moment, under the soft light of the stars and the weight of the world pressing in, their hearts beat in unison, bracing for the storm that was surely coming. By morning, everything had changed. Khalid entered the Alhamden boardroom where his father, Sheikh Abdulrahman Alhamden, waited, flanked by uncles, lawyers, and family advisors. The room was silent, but the tension was a noose. We need to talk, the Sheikh began without pleasantries. Khalid remained standing, defiant. I assume this is about Amina. She is a servant, his uncle spat. An outsider with no lineage, no standing. She's a woman with dignity, Khalid interrupted, and more integrity than half of you in this room. Enough, his father roared. You have a duty to this family. A duty you are neglecting. Khalid's jaw tightened. I'm not a puppet, father. You taught me to lead, not follow blindly. Then lead wisely, his father snapped. We've arranged a merger with the El Sayed family. It hinges on your engagement to Layla. A silence fell. An engagement? Khalid repeated, his voice low with disbelief. You'll make the announcement at tomorrow's gala. The investors are flying in. We will not let a housemaid destroy our legacy. Khalid turned his back, fists clenched. You're asking me to sell my soul for business. No, his father said coldly. We're reminding you who you are. That evening, Amina found Khalid by the terrace, staring out at the sunset. They're forcing you to marry her, aren't they? She whispered. He didn't answer. His silence said everything. Amina's heart shattered. Then it's done, she said softly. You don't owe me anything. He turned to her, eyes burning. Don't say that. I owe you everything. She stepped back, trembling. Then fight for me. Or let me go. But don't leave me in this silence. He reached for her hand, but she was already walking away into the fading light, leaving him with the impossible choice. Honor his family or fight for the only woman who had ever truly seen him. The grand Alhamden estate blazed with golden lights as Dubai's elite arrived for the much-anticipated gala. Paparazzi swarmed the entrance, snapping photos of royalty, CEOs, and fashion moguls. Inside, chandeliers sparkled like stars, and a string quartet played softly under the vaulted ceiling. Khalid stood at the center of it all, clad in an obsidian-black tuxedo, a gold-accented keffiyeh draped over his shoulder. But beneath the polished exterior, he was a storm ready to break. Beside him, Layla glided through the crowd in a crimson silk gown, her arm laced around his. She smiled like a queen, knowing tonight was hers, or so she thought. Whispers filled the air as guests discussed the impending engagement announcement. Investors circled, eager for the merging of dynasties. The sheik watched from a private balcony, his gaze fixed on his son. And then everything changed. A hush fell over the room as Amina appeared. She stood at the top of the staircase in a simple yet radiant ivory gown, her natural curls cascading down her back, her eyes calm but blazing with quiet strength. She had no jewels, no designer label, but she carried herself like a queen. The crowd parted. Layla's smile faded. Khalid's heart stopped. Amina met his gaze. No fear. No shame. Just the truth between them. Layla leaned in. This is a humiliation, Khalid. End it. Now. He didn't move. Instead, he walked toward Amina, every step echoing like thunder. Gasps rose as he reached her and took her hand in front of the entire room. This is the woman I choose, he said loudly. Not for status. Not for business. But because she's the only one who's ever loved me for who I am, not what I own. His voice shattered the silence. If that costs me everything, so be it. From the balcony, his father rose in fury. But Khalid no longer cared. Tonight was no longer about legacy, it was about truth. And he had finally chosen his. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Gasps, murmurs, and flashes from phones blurred into a rising wave of tension. Some guests discreetly exited. Others watched in stunned silence. The elite of Dubai had just witnessed a scandal that would ripple through every corridor of power. Layla's face hardened. She stepped forward, voice low but sharp. You'll regret this, Khalid. You've destroyed everything we built for her. Amina remained composed, but her fingers trembled slightly in Khalid's hand. She didn't destroy anything, Khalid replied coldly. This, whatever this was a lie. I won't keep living one. From the upper level, the sheik descended the staircase like a storm, flanked by two of his advisors. The crowd instinctively parted again. Khalid, his father's voice thundered. You will not embarrass this family further. This girl, this servant, has no place in our world. Amina's eyes lowered for a brief moment, but Khalid pulled her closer. Then I'll build a new world, he said. One where love isn't measured in bloodlines or bank accounts. The sheik's fury was palpable. You would walk away from your inheritance? From the Alhamden legacy? Khalid looked around at the chandeliers, the polished marble, the whispers of greed and gossip. I'd walk away from anything that asks me to choose status over love. There was silence again, heavy, dangerous silence. Amina finally spoke. You don't have to do this, Khalid. I never wanted to come between you and your family. You didn't, he said. You reminded me what kind of man I want to be. At that moment, something shifted. Not in the room, but in Khalid. For the first time, he wasn't the Arab executive with the world at his feet. He was a man in love, ready to fight for it, no matter the cost. The sheik's fists clenched at his sides, but he did not speak. His silence was more dangerous than his threats. Khalid turned to Amina. We can't stay here. But your family, they made their choice. Now I'm making mine. Without another word, Khalid took Amina's hand and guided her toward the ballroom doors. Gasps followed them like a wave crashing through the stunned crowd. Layla called out one last time, her voice cracking with rage and heartbreak. "You'll regret this. She will never survive in your world." Khalid didn't look back. They stepped out into the blinding Dubai daylight, the heavy palace doors slamming shut behind them like the final chapter of a book. Khalid's sleek black car awaited at the driveway. His driver stood frozen in confusion. Without hesitation, Khalid opened the passenger door for Amina. "Get in," he said softly. She hesitated only for a heartbeat before sliding into the seat. Inside the car, Amina looked out the window as the palace grew smaller in the rearview mirror. Her chest tightened with fear, and something else, freedom. Khalid glanced at her. "I know this is insane, Amina, but I've never been more sure of anything." Her voice was barely a whisper. "What happens now?" He gave a small, wry smile. "Now? We build a life that's real." She turned to him fully, heart pounding. "Even if it means losing everything?" "I already have everything I need," he replied, reaching for her hand. The city blurred past them, the towering skyscrapers of Dubai suddenly looking less like walls and more like possibilities. For the first time in her life, Amina wasn't running from something. She was running towards something. Something terrifying. Something beautiful. Something called love. 2 months later, the golden sun cast a warm glow over the quiet outskirts of Abu Dhabi, far from the flashing lights and rigid traditions of palace life. Nestled among modern villas was a newly built home, elegant yet modest by royal standards, but filled with peace. Inside, Amina stood by a tall window, dressed in a simple white summer dress. Her hair was braided down her back, her hands resting over a small baby bump just beginning to show. The morning air smelled of fresh flowers and warm spices. Khalid walked in, dressed casually for the first time in years, no thobe, no suit. Just a man who had left behind his throne for a woman who stole his heart. "Breakfast is ready," he said, leaning in to kiss her cheek. "You look radiant." "I feel nervous," she admitted, turning to him with a smile. "What if I'm not enough for this life?" He cupped her face gently. "You are more than enough. You were the only thing missing from mine." They sat together at the breakfast table, no palace staff, no cold silences, just laughter, food, and soft music playing in the background. Amina reached into a small stack of letters she had received that morning. "Look," she said, holding one out. "It's from Miriam. She wants to visit soon." Khalid raised a brow. "The same Miriam who warned you I was a monster?" She giggled. "Yes. She says if you break my heart, she's still coming for you. I'd expect nothing less." Their laughter filled the room. Outside, a gentle breeze rustled the palm trees. The world hadn't changed. Judgment still lingered, and whispers still followed them in elite circles, but inside their little home, they had created something powerful, something rare, a safe place, a new chapter. And just as Amina placed her hand on her belly, feeling the faintest kick, she knew that love had rewritten not just her story, but the legacy of a man who once believed power was everything. Now he knew better. Love was the true empire, and she, the girl who spilled tea on a prince, had become its queen. 6 months later, the royal gala buzzed with laughter, music, and opulence. Cameras flashed as dignitaries from around the world gathered to celebrate the launch of Khalid's new charity, one that provided education and shelter for underprivileged girls across Africa and the Middle East. Amina stood by his side, now glowing with the joy of motherhood, holding their newborn daughter, Layla. Dressed in an elegant gown, she looked every bit the queen she had become, graceful, strong, and deeply loved. The murmurs around them had changed. The judgment was still there, but so was awe. A prince who gave up his empire for a maid who now stood as his equal? Powerful. Khalid stepped onto the stage, adjusting the microphone. "I used to believe power came from control," he began. "From wealth, from legacy. But the truth? Power comes from purpose. From love. From standing beside someone who challenges you to be better." He glanced at Amina, their eyes locking across the room. This foundation is not just a symbol of change, it's a promise. To rewrite old rules. To give hope to girls who never thought they mattered. Because they do. Thunderous applause erupted. Later, in the garden behind the hall, Khalid and Amina walked under the starlit sky, their daughter nestled in her mother's arms. Do you think she'll grow up free? Amina asked softly. She will, Khalid said. Because her mother taught me what freedom truly means. A pause. And if she falls in love with a gardener? Amina teased. He smirked. Then I'll build her the biggest garden in the world. They laughed, embracing gently as soft music drifted through the air behind them. The past no longer held them captive. The present was a gift. And the future? Theirs to shape. Hand in hand, heart to heart, the Arab executive and the African maid had defied every odd and built a kingdom ruled not by gold, but by love.